Perfect. So, hello everybody. Welcome to our today's webinar, Collaborative Process and Workflow Management with Canbo and Firestart. My name is Robert Hatterer. I'm co-founder and CEO of Prologix. We are a software vendor for software for business process management and automation. And I will tell you a little bit more about our product Firestart today. With me is my colleague Michael from Canbo. Hello, Michael. Maybe you can introduce yourselves.
Hello. My name is Michael Sobotkiewicz, and I'm the CEO of Object Connect, which has invented Canbo. And today, together with Robert, we will show you how two products that actually come from two different worlds can integrate with each other and make some things that were believed impossible though. And today we'll see how you can create collaborative workflows in a collaborative way. And yeah, we're very excited to show you what we have done.
Perfect. So maybe let's have a little look at our agenda for today. So from my side, just want to do a couple of minutes for a little motivation for the webinar. So tell you a little bit about the world that we come from, what challenges we see today, and how we want to address these challenges with our approaches and solutions. Tell you a little bit more about our core products, Firestart and Canbo, and later on show you in a little live demo case how these different approaches can work together to really make structural workflow automation with collaboration approach happening in your office. For that, we prepared two demo cases. So on the one hand, we start with a demo case for marketing automation, where we have defined process that is automated and show you how this process can interact with a collaboration Canbo board and how these two worlds would work together. And in the second demo, we have defined a sample for an HR onboarding process where we come from the other way around, where you can see how you would prototype a happy path in Canbo where there's no structural process around, and how you would later on transform that to a process model and then later on with automation capabilities. So this would be the two cases that we want to show you a little bit and discuss with you today. Maybe for general purpose, in your webinar box on the right panel, you see a panel where you can put in questions. So maybe any kind of questions that would arise during our presentation and webinar, just type in the question in the panel box. And at the end of the webinar, we will have a Q&A session where we can discuss every question and give you the right answers to that. So yeah, just for some intro, general problems. So from my perspective, I'm a software engineer. I come from a software development world. And what I've seen in my early stages of a software engineer is that a lot of process and knowledge is always built around certain applications. So as long as things happen in one application, people are used to treat this application as the center of the world, and they don't necessarily care about the other surroundings, which is fine as long as you stay in one very specific step of a process. But as we see today, there are a couple of dozens, hundreds systems, apps, services that need to be integrated, and therefore you cannot build everything into one application, but there's a need to orchestrate a best-in-breed approach along different organizational units and systems. And a lot of this stuff is still done manually. So when we talk about manually, we talk about sending emails, we talk about copy and paste in file sheets. So a lot of exporting, importing, extracting data, and a lot of inefficiencies in the communications, because it's always like a peer-to-peer communication, but not a knowledge sharing within the organization. And therefore, there's a big need for making approaching this workflows and processes in a more structured way and build a sustainable ecosystem in between. Also for data handling. Data quality is becoming more and more crucial, because on the one hand, we get a lot more data delivered every day that people are confronted with to fill out data, to make decisions on data. So a data quality that is consistent along every system involved is very crucial because otherwise you would simply make poor decisions because you picked the wrong file in the wrong version, and then you made the decision on that one. And especially in combination with social media, communication is changing in a big way too. So back then we were used to use email, fax, telephone as a primary mean of communication. Nowadays we have community-based approaches, social media, that is more and more subtracting this old-fashioned way of communicating. And therefore you also have to think about how you use these new ways of communication to build a better, more efficient communication process in the company. And yeah, back then, simply when you think about efficiencies, it's not happening in one system, but it will not increase on a manual level, but it's about automation. Because whenever you can do stupid things repetitively, you can automate them. And by automating them, you put away all the stupid stuff from the people to a system that can take that over and therefore leave more time, work time on the people for creative work, for really social interaction with the people, and not dump copy and paste of data around. And it's getting more and more important also to have monitoring and analysis capabilities on that processes, because people want to know, okay, where does the process get stuck? How many resources do you need to plan for this kind of process we want to deliver? What are service levels that we need to fulfill for our clients and customers? So there's also risk and compliance issues that really enforces the way you do business in a more process-oriented and automated way. And this is the big change. So from a very, let's say, system-centric approach, where the God was the system in the middle, and the obedience were the people finding their way through the system. And now we put people in the center of the universe with their tasks, their activities, and try to align all the surroundings, all the ITs and applications in an optimal way so that they can perform the work in the most efficient way. And we are right in the middle of this transition. So with all the app and cloud transition that is happening, this is also a new way how you build applications, how you build workforce and communication structures in your company. And yeah, that leads me to a little introduction of Kanbo. And on that stage, I want to hand over to Michael to tell you a little bit about what Kanbo is and what it does.
Okay, thank you, Robert. So, as you already know, I mean, there are two products involved in today's presentations, and one of them is Kanbo. And for those who don't know what Kanbo is, I put this slide together just to give you a brief overview what it is. So first of all, it is a web application, which also, of course, supports mobile devices. Because it is mobile and it is web, you can be run on any device at any time. And what Kanbo does is actually it catches the context, and it uses cards to do that. So the context, when we say context, we mean like all the relevant information that the user needs to know. So we saw in the slide before that the human is in the center, and because the human depends on the human what he needs in order to fulfill a task or a mission or whatever he's doing. He will need certain information coming from different systems, and having those information always up to date and in a very handy form was a big challenge that we tried to solve with Kanbo. And we started to use Kanban boards with Kanban cards to capture the information needed for certain contexts. So the card itself contains several elements that are always there. So which one is for communication, which is the real-time chat. Of course, you have documents, and whenever the documents versions and so on change, it's also depicted in the card. You always know who's responsible, so you know which people are involved. You know if there are some tasks, you can also find the task in the context, so inside the cards. The cards can be moved around, so they keep some sort of a status, so you always know what's happening with the card, where's the card coming from, so the whole history is also there. And you can also book time if it's a work item, if the card depicts some piece of work. And then there's also much more that can be contained by a single card. But the effect it has on people is whenever you enter a card, you actually are entering a certain context, and you can be sure that this information that is there is most recent, and it should be self-contained. So all information that you need to fulfill the work that is presented by the card is already there. So you don't have to look for the information. The information actually comes to you. And this smart in-context notifications means that since the world is sliced into little contexts that are put then together into bigger contexts using boards, you can actually decide on which level you want to follow certain things in your company. So is it maybe 3 cards out of this board that you see on the right-hand side that are interesting to you? Or is it maybe the whole board? Or maybe only a list which depicts a step of a process? So it's actually this beautiful presentation of this new way of working, which is called pooling work instead of pushing it to people. So you decide which stuff is needed for you to fulfill the work, and you decide on following certain stuff, and then this information comes to you, instead of the systems today where actually you get pushed information by email, by the CC disease, and you cannot do anything about it. And there will be a time and point where it just blows up because it's just too much information. And I think the last point that I should point out here is that Canbo was built with the idea as being part of the Microsoft ecosystem. So as we started to build this tool, it was on-premise, it was SharePoint, it was Exchange, it was Active Directory. And during the transition of Microsoft in the recent years, we also followed that path. So Canbo is also fully integrated into the Office 365 suite, into the Azure services, and recently we also put it in the Microsoft Teams as a component. So yeah, that would be from my side, Robert. And now I would like to hand over to you so you can talk a little bit about what Firestart is.
Thanks, sure. So.
Oh yeah, sure. Maybe one last slide about Canbo. Sorry about that. It's yeah, I mean, these are the common use cases for Canbo where Canbo is used in companies. So it's most of all, it's very collaborative. It's very flexible. So you see, it's like this Swiss knife, so you can use it for many things. I think the most important stuff is that it's really a part of the Microsoft ecosystem, and that it's very flexible and has this collaborative features. Yeah, that would be from my side.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so maybe a little intro to Firestart, what it is. So we created a product which is called Firestart, which suits the purpose for business process modeling and workflow automation. So this is the big scope that we try to bridge between the business side of a process and the IT automation side of a process. And in that context, that the product is called a BPM suite. So this is a product that has both capabilities. Also, as Michael said, we are also very Microsoft oriented. So we started about 12 years ago with our development and also grew with the SharePoint and other Microsoft collaboration ecosystem. And our goal was always to be the best BPM product in that space. And last year we were also awarded the Microsoft Partner of the Year award, which we're very proud of. So also shows that we have a pretty good success stories, customer stories in that ecosystem. So what you see here in the screenshots, so the design is very Microsoft familiar from the Office product. So a lot of less and low coding approach. So most of the stuff that you need to define, configure, so whether it's interfaces, whether it's forms, whether it's logic of the process, everything is handled in a very drag and drop and visual manner. So this is like we would follow it should be a common approach. So that's like for today, it's for you very usual to open Word if you write a letter or use Excel for calculations. It should be something very common in the future that you open Firestart for managing your processes and workflows. So this was the approach, and therefore it's not like a Visual Studio for workflow designers, but really a management application that attracts a very broad range of users at the company. So in the end, it should be the interface between the management, the process owners, the IT department, and the end users, and building it in the center of a platform to manage and coordinate all the processes that are around on the platform. We always had the goal to seamlessly connect with all the legacy systems of the company, so any kind of CRM, ERP, supply chain management applications, we can connect mostly out of the box with our predefined connectors. And we schedule the tasks and the associated forms to the end users. And therefore, it was always our concept to integrate natively in already existing collaboration environments, such as SharePoint, such as Outlook. So these are interfaces that are known to the people, that they trust. So most of them know how to handle emails in an Outlook environment. And if we can reuse this kind of knowledge and trust from the users and bring them with that approach to more structured workflows, that is the concept that we want to follow. Also, an important point is that we support BPMN 2.0 from a notation standpoint. So this is the one and only international standard for defining your process, so people get trained at that standard. And this is also the standard that we support when you build and design your solutions. And we also have a very powerful workflow engine that can really schedule the workflows, handle escalations, really give insight on how these processes were executed. And this is also for the management users a very important insight in the end-to-end approach, how they work in the daily business with the processes. Yeah, and what we did now with our technology cooperation with Kanbo is that we created an activity sets for Kanbo. So what we do in Firestore, we have activities. These are like Lego pieces. So this could be automated pieces that would handle a certain part of automation on the system. And we used the API of Kanbo to build Firestore activities so that our workflow engine can automatically build cards, change properties, change user rights, whatever you could do automatically with Kanbo, it can be done in a very easy and single manner. As we both use Active Directory, we also support single sign-on in that space, so you don't need to log in 3-4 times, but you have a single sign-on concept that you can reuse. And also, as Michael said, we are very good integrated in SharePoint environments and also support the Office 365 products in that sense. And yeah, that just was the part from the introduction. Now we want to move to the live demo part to actually show you a little bit live how the products look like, how they work, and present you the cases. And I want to start with the first use case that we prepared for today's webinar for event planning. And therefore, I will switch to the Firestore Manager, which is the main interface for all the process and workflow managers. So anybody that would design a process, control the process, install the process, or configure the workflows would mainly use this client for the collaboration. So from the user perspective, you see it's very common user principles like in Outlook. You have on the left-hand side, the modules. So starting with high-level process maps to specify the process landscapes for your company, building down the detailed process models, so where you can specify the detailed logic of your processes, or up to the operational part where you can actually monitor your workflows or schedule the tasks and manage the tasks that you will get out of the system. And also what you see all the surroundings. So it's not like building the very low level of the process, but really building the context of the process with your document exchange, with your data models that you use, with your application interfaces that you have. So it's really, if you would want to build a house, you don't just start building it, but before you would make a plan how it looks like, what it would cost. And with that, we have the same approach here. Before you would build a workflow, you would start with analyzing the process context, and once that is finished, then you would go deeper down into the workflow specifications. And here we have a high-level landscape, how it looked like. Every module has different kind of artifacts that you can use. So in that sense, you can drag and drop your processes, you can add metadata, you can build connections, context to your artifacts. So this is all done in a very easy office looking like handling. And if you would go down here to the use case that we prepared for marketing automation, you would have a specific set on actions how you would build this process. So you get start points, how you would kick off a workflow. You got gateways that help you define the logic of the process flow, or what the logic would do. You get human activities, so any kind of task that would before be an email or whatever. It can be an automated task for the user, and for this task you could build a specific form, what kind of data from various kind of systems that should be presented to the users. So also with a lot of staging support, so you can see a lot of assistance in terms of configuration, in terms of validation. So our system would tell you if there's anything missing, if the process is modeled in the correct way. So a lot of quality assurance and staging to build a sustainable ecosystem around the processes. And then you would have system activities. So anything that you would do automated in between, you have these Lego pieces called system activities, where you can edit data, connect to databases, make calculations, or in that demo that we did, modify Kanban boards. So here you see a quite big variety, how you would add automatically a board, how you would shift documents to the boards, how you would manage comments from the boards. So all these activities can be managed and also configured in an easy use of way. So every activity has a certain wizard how you would parameterize this activity. And we would need to have data. So here what we did, we have a little demo environment in the SharePoint environment. So we got an event planning list, which is a calendar, and we want to connect to this list. So if anybody plans a new event, we would want to connect our process to our workflow to this event list. And this is simply done by connecting to your data objects. So what you see here, you got a central repository for all your data objects that you want to connect with. And here we got one data object, which is called event. And you can easily define the data logic, so what kind of attributes you would want to have from this object. And once the data object is designed, you can actually map that to your original SharePoint environment. So with that, you got a connection wizard, which helps you quickly build the connection between your SharePoint list on the left hand and the logical data model that we build in Firestart. So just waiting for the connection to be approved. So this can always happen for the first time, take a while. And now we see, okay, this is now the original data source, the SharePoint list that I've just shown you. And we have, by simply dragging and dropping the attributes here, made a connection, read and write a connection between our logical model and the data model that we used for the workflow. So this is a central and also reusable data model. So you don't have to define all the data logic for every workflow anew, but it's a central repository with a single point of contact to change connectivity, and every workflow that would work with this event list can reuse that central object from the repository. And with that data object, we can kick off workflows. So on this start bubble here, you have an event wizard, which helps you, okay, when do you want to kick off the workflow? When somebody enters a new event into the event list. So this is the event configuration for a database event. You could put in certain conditions, so if there's a certain time frame, or you can have the context. Context is very important to define context variables that you can use later on for reporting and building connections to other systems. There were a pretty large variety of events. You can have timer-based events where a workflow would start every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, or simply we have a web service API where any kind of external system could pretty simply use this web service API REST service to kick off workflows on our system. And with that kind of information we get here, we now have an automated activity, which is an automated email. And this is how you would an activity would look like when you have all the parameters. So we send this to all the attendants that were entered into this planning list. And we have a customized and individualized email body to say, okay, which kind of information do we put into this email? So this is a very simple way how you would enter the data for this activity to automatically inform all the participants that they will go to this kind of event. And then depending of the lecturer, we have a different logic here if they define the lecturer, but the topic is missing and things like that. So this is how you can use gateways to define the logic and perform these different tasks based on these rules. And later here, we got a human task. So here somebody from the management gets a task, says, okay, select marketing material. And there we have some basic infos for the event and have different choices what kind of individual stuff should be prepared for the event. So should we have an individual event article for this kind of event? Should we have an individual flyer for this event? Should we have an individual booth for this event? So this is like a checklist for the marketing guy to say, okay, we need to prepare this, this, this. And later on, we shift that structured process that we manage from here to the collaborative process, because then we hand that all over to the Canva board, and therefore it's all handled in an individual and social manner to complete these tasks. So create subtasks, create the event article, manage the documents, create sub attendance from the task. So this is all up to Canva. We just calculate a deadline, say, okay, let's say a week before the event is actually happening, we have somebody in the management to actually acknowledge that the task has been successfully completed, or from a compliance perspective or whatever. So before and after, we do a structured workflow where things need to happen in a certain way and in a certain order, but we don't really care in which kind of order these tasks are done. But that is later on handled in the Canva board. And I will just simply start this workflow. So we start here with that event list and say, okay, we have a new event. Let's say the SharePoint Saturday in New York, and this is happening somewhere, somewhere, in August, and it will happen in New York. And we would have somebody to do a lecture there, and I need to define at least one participant, which will be Selena Bentley, or I don't know. And yeah, and we say, okay, we want to do a lecture, but we don't have defined the lecturer and the lecture title. That will be somebody up in the management to decide who will do the lecture and what will be the title in the end. So just saving this this SharePoint item now creates an event, and we catch that event in our workflow system. So this is now with our data model binded to that start event. And if I now switch to the workflow module, I see that there's a list where all the operational workflows will be listed. So you can have go to all the finished workflows, okay, what workflows have been completed, for example. You see all the status, what is the progress, what is the escalation status, etc., etc. And now we also have a workflow here that has been started, which now handles how the different preparation for the material of this event will be handled. So by double-clicking on that workflow, I can drill down, deep dive how this workflow is executed. So here we see, okay, the first automated activity has been done. It was that automated email. And this is now how this email would be sent to the attendant. So okay, now congratulations, you can now attend the SharePoint Saturday New York event. So this was later, before the wildcard, where we now have put in all the context for this notification in New York on August 23rd. And later on, we have seen, okay, what was the logic here? And depending of if there's a lecture assigned or not, we have now created a management task to see, okay, please complete the lecture for this event. And that task can now be scheduled to SharePoint, to any kind of task environment, or in that case, people can pick that up with our Outlook integration. So to just show you, I've just opened the inbox of this kind of management responsible, and with our workflow plugin, he would get this task with this task-specific form directly in his Outlook environment, which is pretty cool because this is like this email I've just sent. This is a plain vanilla email, but the next one is a structured task with a context-specific form optimized for the user and the needs for that task. So you say, okay, now we have an event, you need to define some lecture on the lecture title, and by picking this task, so before I can do anything, I need to pick it, like Michael said. It's not we pushing it out, but we say, here's a task, and somebody who wants to pick this can pick this. And also we can later on go in and say, okay, use controls like people picker, like selection boxes, to really get all the data out of the legacy systems, which can be SharePoint, SAP, databases, whatever, and present the data in that context. And I give a title, Smart Workflows, and leave the description open for later and do confirm. And confirming these tasks now schedules the tasks back to the workflow system. And here we should have all the stuff completed so that the next one in the management position would get the task to select the right marketing material. I've just seen that we have forgotten to translate this task to English. Sorry for that. Now we have it here. Okay. And this is now okay. Please select the marketing material for the SharePoint event. And this task looks like this. As we've seen before, the design of the task and the actual tasks now looks like this. Okay, we have now an event. Please choose what kind of marketing material we should prepare for that event. And just to give you the idea, as I've said later on, we schedule all the tasks that need to be performed in a collaborative way to the Kanban boards. The Kanban board right now looks something like this. So it's an empty board where we just put in marketing tasks, and the board responsible, which is Angelina Jolie, can define how they would handle these tasks. And going back here, I just say, okay, I would like to have special booth, an event article, and a flyer. And all the communication to the system is handled in real time. And therefore, I want to show you confirming these tasks in real time would now generate in the Kanban board these activities. By also pre-selecting responsibilities from any kind of HR systems. So we said, okay, for the area of New York, we have Clint Eastwood, who usually writes the articles. So we have workflow logic, getting back to backend system, defining the context, and use that context to push it out to the Kanban board. Or for the flyer, we always have Brad Pitt doing the flyers. Or for the booth, Angelina herself is responsible for this. And we can also say, send now to Clint Eastwood another task with Firestart and say, hey, you have been nominated for doing the event article for the SharePoint event. You want to do that? Say, okay, yeah, I can do that. And again, by performing or accepting the workflow tasks in Firestart, we can automatically shift the context in the Kanban board. So now it's like it's still a to-do. He hasn't confirmed to do it, and once he has confirmed to do it, we automatically shift the task for the overview for Angelina Jolie in the next in progress bar. And now we hand it over to Angelina Jolie to actually do that in her way, and this is now shown by Michael.
All right, so now I will quickly change the screen to my screen. So now you should be able to see my screen.
Perfect.
And I am logged on as Michael here, and what I see is a Kanban board, right? So what it is a Kanban board where you can see lists and you see cards, but everything is in digital. So, for example, if I want to see what is Clint doing, so I just open the card. And now I'm in the middle of the card, and I see he's responsible, and I see the information where the card is coming from, where it was created, who created it, and so on. And I see it's in progress. And so the value here that we are presenting is that you saw that the process that Robert just shown is, I would say, this is even one that is not that complicated. But if you think about medical, if you think about production lines and supply chains, the workflows that Firestart can handle are huge. I mean, there are thousands of activities that can be handled and a lot of logic. But the need of managers or people who are just working with the tasks and want to have a brief overview is to have a simplified view, and that's where Canva comes into play. Because if you see, you saw already that the cards were created by Firestart, and the cards depict more or less the pieces of work that need to be done. And of course, let's say these are those which are coming from this one workflow. But if this board represents, let's say, our process of managing all marketing activities or all marketing events in America or in Europe or in all over the world, then you will have many instances of workflows producing a lot of tasks here. So people involved can see like what I'm responsible for, where is the next due date, and so on. So when let's say when I want to tell Clint about what to do in this article, then I could use the elements of a card to visualize that. And maybe this what I will do now in the card doesn't fit into the workflow, because this is always different when you write an article. This is a creative work, and the process just says, okay, you need to deliver the article. Until then, that's it. But what about the article itself? What about the semantics? What about the ideas, maybe the links or videos that you can use in order to do it? So that's where the card comes from. And then you have possibilities like notes, where you can say like, I have an idea. And then you can describe your idea here in this card, also using some rich formatting and so on. Then another nice stuff is you can add documents, just by drag and drop documents on the card. So I can go ahead and just use a document here and say like I want to just use this document in this card. So just by drag and dropping, I will upload it into the card, and I can also use, let's say I have something like maybe like a structure of the first article. So maybe I will use the tasklet for this, like, and I will put some items in there, like maybe introduction. Then I will go for examples, and maybe I don't know, maybe Einstein. Einstein is some I don't know, maybe some inspiration that I would like to have. And as you see, I can easily now go ahead and drag and drop the stuff in a way I want. So actually, you know, reorganizing the information and so on, it's pretty easy. It's pretty self-explaining, because everything is drag and drop. And let's say for the examples part, I would like to have someone work with Clint. So I could go ahead and assign someone to this subtask, saying, I know we need Clint, we need George Clooney to help out. And you see, I just added George Clooney to the subtask in this card, and he automatically was added to the card. But the difference here is that he was added as with a small picture, which means in the card we realized that the business needs to know who is responsible for a certain card, and this is Clint at this moment. And Clint is someone who is a co-worker on this card, because he's only one piece of work here. And then I could also go ahead and say, like, you know, Angelina needs also to help out. So I just take Angelina and I say, like, the introduction part, maybe Angelina can help us out with this. And you see, I just added her here, and then she's also becoming a part of the personnel who's dealing with the card, right? And I also could say, like, you know, the whole example stuff here is becoming pretty big, and I need it to be finished by Monday. And then the examples part is so big, and we need so much communication and so much stuff in there, so it cannot be really handled as part of this card. So I can easily go ahead and say, like, you know, I want this one to be converted into a card. So I just go and convert it into a card, yes. And then it disappears here. It leaves a track that it was converted into a card. So when I go back, I see a new card where already George is responsible, and I see also the date, so it was taken over. Now I can go ahead and go deeper into this card and make it more store all this information of the context of the examples, right? So what you saw here is the usual work, the daily work that you do, but still this board gets its information from different places, and people are getting assigned. So this board actually visualizes the real work, the pieces that need to be done in order to fulfill or to achieve something. Doesn't matter where they come from. So maybe another stuff that is also interesting here is that people are getting a lot of tasks here, and when I switch back, you see also there are a lot of other boards where you can get your tasks from, right? So how to handle the tasks or the cards that you're responsible for and so on that are coming from different boards, obviously standing for projects or processes and so on. That's what we do with my board, where we have developed a place which actually looks like a board, but in this board you are the owner, and you see here that the cards are coming from different, I don't know if you can see that, but I can zoom in, so maybe then you can see it much better. See, these cards are coming from different boards. So actually this, what you see here, is my personal workflow, how I'm planning the work. And what I can do here is, when I'm moving, for example, the card, sorry for the German here, but it's called waiting. So when I want to rearrange how I structure the task, so I just take the list and I just drag it over here, and I will put this task here, let's say now on as next, right? And moving the stuff between those lists doesn't change the positions in the actual boards where the cards are in there. So what you see here is a decoupled, or let's say a virtual way, showing your personal workload, and you can do the lists and the order of the lists and move the stuff around in order to plan your work. And it doesn't matter from which boards that's coming. So the my board concept here is the way how we're solving the problem of managing your own workflow, but still staying in the company's flow. So when I come back to the Firestart demo, this is the perspective of event planning. But what about the other perspectives? They come all together because of me, because I'm doing the work. So I need something to manage my workflow independently of the boards. So this at this moment, let's say I finished the examples, so I am actually visualizing and working out loud in a very collaborative way. But still, the other cards are being moved by the system, by Firestart. Yeah, that would be now from my side, and I would like to get back to Robert to continue with the second demo.
Oh no, we would go to the second demo. Yes, but you would.
All right. Okay, then I will just continue presenting my screen. So the second demo. So the first demo is now over. So you can imagine if all the tasks are done, then the workflow in Firestart is over and the event is prepared. And in the second demo, I would like to show you the other way around. So from my perspective, and I was many times, I'm 20 years in business, in the IT business, and I was in many roles. I was a business architect or business analyst, and you know, getting the knowledge out of people how things working, how processes are done is very hard, because sometimes when I talk to two folks from the same process or from the same project, if they explain to me how they see it, I think they are not even working in the same company, because their view is completely different. So it's very hard to somehow in a natural way to get out of the people how they are really working. And I mean, the processes that we are building, they should automate the way we are really working, and not not doing this wish thinking. Like, I think from the process design, we should work that way. But in the reality, we cannot really do that, because it's completely non-realistic. So doing that, you could use Kanbo naturally actually speed up the process of designing a certain part of a process or a whole process, and also not only designing it, but also trying it out. I mean, playing it or living it for a while in order to see whether this process is constantly changing, or has the process already reached a stage, as we can call this, is an adult process, which means it's pretty stable, doesn't change, and it proved itself to be real world example. So people really work that way, and once it reaches this stage, it can be moved to the fire start, so basically imported, and then partially automated or even fully automated. But we know that we are then working with something that it was proven to work in the real world. And this process I would like to show you. So I'm starting now with a pretty vanilla board, which is the HR boarding. I just created it, and it has 3 lists. And behind the scenes, just that you know, there was a SharePoint site created for storing additional information or for documents and so on. So the template that was used here can be selected, but most importantly, we have now a clear board, and now we are starting to build the HR onboarding process. So let's say, okay, so actually the first step would be probably we will receive applications, so we will receive CVs, so let's call it new CVs. So now you will also experience how easy it is to build something from scratch in Kanban, just to visualize the stuff, how it works. So new CVs, then the next list is probably would be probably a phone interview, just to have a first contact with the candidate. Right. So the next one would be probably having if he passes, then we will probably invite him to us. So it's like having an interview on place. And maybe we'll give this maybe a different color, so it looks nicer. And the next one is so if this passes, then we will probably will have to have a next appointment with our HR department. So this is the HR interview. What is the next stage? The next stage will be probably something like a decision, and decision we should maybe make red. Then the last step would be hire, probably, and let's make it green. And if maybe the decision was, oh, maybe this is a nice candidate, but maybe for later, so we will also maybe need a list for keeping stuff for later, so like later. And let's put it on gray. All right, so basically this is our process, and whenever a card arrives here, then it would be via like now a manual input. So we have a, let's say, candidate Bill Gates, right, has applied, and then inside there we will probably have also some documents that he sent. So let's say here we will have those 2 documents, just drag and drop it on the card. So you see, you could also upload stuff to the card just by drag and dropping on the card. What is happening behind the scenes is actually that the documents are uploaded first to the SharePoint library that is connected with this board. You can also connect many SharePoint libraries, also existing ones, and then it is attached to cards. So you see, these are the documents, and we can name the sections like these are the like CV docs, right? And then so then let's try out the process. We need to assign someone who will take care of Bill Gates, who will be actually responsible for the candidate. So let's invite some people to our board. So we go to manage users, and as you can see, we have 3 levels of rights in one board, and we would like to invite people now as members. So let me invite Clint here, Clint Eastwood. And what is happening here when I'm adding those? The Active Directory is searched through, right? So whatever, if it's on premise or if it's in the cloud, the Active Directory search through here, and we also add Annie here and George. That would be okay. So we added them here as members, as you can see. So now what I can do is just, okay, I wanna assign Clint to this candidate. So I just drag and drop him on the candidate. So now he was assigned. And now how does it look for Clint when he was assigned? So I have here a second session where he is logged in, and so now you can see that he's received a notification, and he see like Michael a few seconds ago just assigned him to this candidate, so he wants to know who is this candidate. So just by one click, he can navigate right into the context of the candidate, so he knows, okay, these are the CV documents and so on, and now he's responsible. So he will now call him or whatever, and he will schedule the phone interview, and the phone interview was scheduled for let's say for the 21st or at 3 p.m. right? And now when he gets back, he puts him on the phone interview, and you also see in the timeline here, you see all the deadline, all the due dates that are approaching, which are yellow. If today has passed, they become red, and if they are in the future, they stay gray. So whenever you click here, you can also see what's happening on that day, right? So this is how the candidate will then, move stage by stage, and he goes through the process, and then there is a decision, and then after the decision is made, then he was put maybe higher or later, or he will just receive an email yeah, we appreciate, but sorry, but no. Maybe what's important here is also the principle of following. So let's say I am interested in this whole process, but actually I am the decision maker. So what I will do now, I will put a follow on a certain step of the process. So what is happening here is that I'm not following a single card. By following, I will decide that the card, whatever is done in the card, so upload documents, comments, and so on, I will receive a notification. When I follow a certain step, a certain list, then I will receive notifications whenever a card is in that list. So if it leaves the list, that's the last notification I will get that the card left it. So in that way, I can pretty much say which part of a process or which part of a board I am interested in. I'm interested in a single card. Am I interested in a process step? Or maybe this is a very important process to me, so I want to follow the whole board, which will probably generate a lot of notifications here. So this is where I can decide how much information I need to do my job. And this is very new to some of the employees, because they live now in a world where actually they get the stuff in the inbox, and then they will start doing stuff. And here is different. Here you have to take care of what is important, so you don't miss stuff. So that's the basic idea that we support here. And then maybe one of the last things that I would like to show is like, how does the communication go? So let's say I want to tell something to Clint, but I'm not writing an email, or I'm not just using Skype for saying, oh, there is this candidate, Bill Gates, and he's there, and there was an interview, blah, 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 because all the context is already kept by the card. So why should I waste my time and the time from Clint to explain the world? We just go into the card, and in this card, I would just ask a simple question, like, has he a driving license, right? And I am, for example, now mentioning Clint in this talk. So when I send this simple message here, I don't need to be, I don't need to describe what I mean, because this message is already kept in the right context. So whenever Clint receives it, he sees here a little bell and also the notification. So he opens the card and he sees like, okay, has he got a driving license? He can answer like, I do not know, but I will find out and let you know. And then he will mention me, right? So I get a notification here. And this is how you communicate using Kanbo, where out of all these boards, right, you can talk to people in a very specific context. So it's in the beginning, it's quite hard to not using email, but after a while you get used to it, and then you really cherish what's happening, because people are putting the information not only in the context of boards, which is pretty huge, but they're going deeper, and they in a context of a HR onboarding, they go into a certain candidate, and then you see all the information, all the context of this candidate, and now you can freely communicate without having, you know, to explain whatever happened and so on, because the whole history of the card and how many stages it passed and who created it, it's all here. So you see here the power of the context, beautifully displayed and very flexible in use. And that's basically what Kanban is about. And let's say this process now, we have now connected an email incoming, because you can also send emails to a board, and all the new candidates that come here and they go over the process, and we say, like, after a month we see, like, this is a very nice process, but you know, whenever we move the card to hire, then we would like to some magic happen, like, you know, create SAP accounts, create Active Directory, you know, book a workplace, like with the desk, with the PC, and so on. And this stuff should happen automatically. And this is where Kanban comes to, let's say, its limits. And then Kanban actually, at this moment, when you move the card to here, could trigger some magic in the Firestart. And this is actually the point where I would like to hand over to Robert, who will probably explain now that this process that was doing many iterations and do many Kaizen steps can now be taken over to Firestart, where it can be now polished and automated. Right, Robert?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, then I will hand over the screen to you.
Please, yes.
The stage is yours.
Very good. Thanks a lot. So, yeah, I mean, what we've just seen is the basic stages of a process, and where you can see a very high-level view how the applicants would move in the certain stages of the HR onboarding process. But the one thing is, people actually wouldn't know how the logic would work. So if I would be a new employee, I know, can I move somebody directly from our applicant to hired or nothing? So you need to define rules, because if you have more complex processes, people would want to know, okay, how can we handle this process? What are the rules? What are the constraints that we have for moving our employees and applicants from one stage to the next one? So in that case, Kanban was the overview board of the high-level process to see what are the stages of the certain applicants. But then you could use Firestart to actually define this process and the logic to say, okay, what happens if we get the application documents? Who needs to do what? So what are the rules? What are the tasks that need to be done to move the applicants from one stage to the next one? And then you can use all the modeling capabilities. Okay, say first we got a decision if you want to reject him directly or not, and then we would do a phone interview if that is positive. We would do a background check, then we would do a job interview, and in the end we would have a head of HR interview before we would make a final decision if the applicant gets hired or rejected. So this is simply the rule and the logic that we can show and define for the users, that they know how this process works in detail. And this is not only in the modeling space, but then you can also communicate all this process knowledge on the process web portal to the people, to actually tell them, okay, if I'm new in the HR field, that I know, okay, what do we need to do to actually move the applicants through the process. And also with a lot of collaborative feedback, so any kind of documents or for the job interviews, any kind of central knowledge base that you would need to know for moving the tasks. Feedback for the continuous improvement process. Okay, we had a problem here, to give some feedback. Okay, can we do something about this problem because we forgot about to check the driving license, stuff like that. So this is all handled also in an HTML5 based process portal, which also has later on various personal view. So for me as Robert Hatterer, entering the portal, I see, okay, where are all my processes that I'm interacting with, that I work with? What are my roles and responsibilities? What are my current workflows running? What are my open tasks? So as we have seen in Kanban, all the Kanban boards as a personal center, we can provide the same personalized view and context on the structured processes and workflow here. And we can also embed that in existing environments like SharePoint, so that when people work in their collaboration environments like SharePoint, that they all have their real-time process knowledge on hand to deep dive into specific processes and see how they work and how things are actually done. And then, as Michael has said, you would go in and say, okay, no, we don't want to do all this process manually. We want to do certain automations within the process. So let's say if the application documents come here, we automatically want to move the file from the application email to a SharePoint environment. So we would go and insert an automated move file activity to a SharePoint document library here. Or if we would conduct a phone interview, we would maybe later schedule an appointment to the other and schedule an automated appointment to the interviewer and to the applicant. Or later at that stage, we want to check certificates, and we would call an external service provider with a service API where we would send the driver's license, and they would give us a feedback if that is a valid license or not, or a credit check or something like that. Or maybe later when the whole process is finished, it's okay, now we have chosen to hire the people that we would automatically go and create an Active Directory user in our IT environment and give him certain rights. Or we would have an SAP or employee created in our SAP environment with an employee number. Or we would give them an automatic phone number from our inventory by accessing our central database for all our HR-related stuff. Or simply move the card. So the stages that you have seen in the Kanban board, of course, we can go back again and say, okay, from that stage to that stage, we would move the Kanban board from interview to applicant or final decision or whatever. So we would do the same automation that we do with Kanban with all the other systems that we could interact with. And this is like the final stage where you have all the logic managed on the process level and have also all the automated stuff in between, so that really can go from a manual process to a very smart and very high-level automated process in the end. So this is what you would want to do with Firestart in the end, and we're already done with the time, so I don't go into too much details here. But this is typically how the two ways would work. Either you would start with a process, automate the process, and use Kanban as an interface, or you could go the other way around to define bootstrap a process from the people and later on move that step by step into a more managed environment. And this is what we try to show you today with these two use cases. Again, just a little summary what we would try to show you, so that on the one hand, Firestart and SharePoint can be integrated seamlessly as a central management system, and that with the automated activities, you can visualize the progress and the tasks that we generate and navigate the specific context-specific forms and tasks to native environments with web frontends, Outlook, SharePoint, etc. And this is where also Kanban provides this real-time collaboration environment with social media capabilities, with notifications, with ad hoc workflow design on a manual level to really inform and keep that on a very individual process at the user's hand. So they can decide what to do, how to do it, but in the end, a process, overall process and workflow of Firestart takes control, that at some point this collaboration process needs to finish again. Because otherwise we don't know, if they don't get finished with the event article and the event takes place, then you would have a problem. So on the one hand, you shouldn't get stuck in a strict process from end to end. On the other hand, you don't want to get stuck in a very exploding collaboration environment. And with these two principles combined, I think you can manage the process in every step in the right way. And yeah, in the second sample, we showed you how you can really use all the filtering, labels, Kanban features to communicate from people to people, and later on move this information to a process design and define the logic of these processes for the high-level process into more detail. And later on, as I've tried to explain, put in all the automation activities, put in the data models, the connectivity to the legacy system to make this happen also on the IT level, and back give the information back to the right systems and hand them over to them. So yeah, that was hopefully a very interactive and interesting demo to show you how these two worlds could work together seamlessly. And in regard to the time, I would want to move to the Q&A session. So again, if you have any questions that arise on your side during the presentation, please put it into the question box, and we would be happy to answer that. We got one question here for Firestart. So the question is, Firestart is like an Nintex. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, no. So Nintex is an add-on to a SharePoint environment. So it is really bound to the workflow capabilities that SharePoint provides. So it's bound to that ecosystem. Firestart, in contrast, is a standalone BPM suite. So the engine, reusable data models, the BPMN support, so any kind of that is fully packaged into an independent product, Firestart. So we are very good integrated into a SharePoint or Outlook or any kind of groupware environment, but the whole process and workflow logic is into an independent product, which is very important because then we are also not bound to the strategy of SharePoint development and API changes, but we can handle that all on our level. And on the other hand, we come from a very more process planning approach. So we address quality managers, process managers, Lean, Six Sigma, and bring them into the whole development of the process and workflow ecosystem before it goes to the IT for the end workflow configuration. And Nintex is a product that really approaches, let's say, the workflow designers in the SharePoint context, and is very focused on that kind of ecosystem. Firestart does the too, but builds up a really consistent BPM strategy for the whole company. I hope that was a little answer to the question. Any other kind of questions from your side? Please put them into the question box.
Yeah, there is actually a question saying like, can Canbo start a Firestart process? Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Because we've got those webhooks, and you also saw that Robert showed you the web service that can be triggered. Exactly. So not only Canbo can start it, but any other system also from the cloud can start it. So that's
so any kind of event that would come from Canbo, we can hook that up with the event that I've shown here. So let's say closing a card could be a database event to start a workflow based on that event. So it's very easy to hook up the events from Canbo to Firestart. Yeah.
And there's also a last question that was also put there is hiring is done in Canbo. Once accepted, Firestart does the user IT account provisioning. Yeah, I think the question came, I think, before you explained that after a certain step, all the timely consuming stuff that happens in the IT, in the legacy systems can be completely automated. I think that was answered by this. Mm-hmm.
So this is like if the process would end here in Canbo, we can do all the later on provisioning. Let's say, yeah, create accounts, do database updates, do SAP transactions, whatever kind comes on the legacy system in the back, that would be a job for Firestart. Whatever happens collaboratively before would be managed with our Firestart tasks and the Canbo boards.
Yeah, that were the questions that I saw were relevant.
Okay, okay. Are any other questions from yours? Oh, now I see it. I just had it. My window was too little. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Any other questions you have seen that I haven't seen?
No. That's it.
All right. All right. So yeah, then I would close the session for today and say thank you for your time, and I hope it was interesting for you. We have our contact details here, so if you have any questions later on, feel free to drop us a line. We would be happy to help you. Or if you want to have a demo account, whatever, we can provide it for you very easily. And yeah, let's keep in touch. We will send out a recording later on or beginning of next week with the webinar so that you have a copy for yours, also the slides that we've seen today. And yeah, thanks a lot from my side, and hopefully see you soon again to one of our next webinars. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much from my side as well, and I hope we could inspire you and show you that there are different approaches that match the time and the needs of today's business, and and both our products specialize in certain fields, but as I always like to say, like 1 and 1 is 3 here, and I hope we could get this message over to you. And yeah, since it's Friday in Europe, it's almost evening. I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.